Alright, welcome to the area of a regular polygon level 3. Now in this video we're going to be focusing on how can we find the length of the apothem. And that's kind of our fancy word right there, the apothem. Now remember, when we look at our regular polygons, in this case we see that this shape has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sides. So this will be a regular hexagon. We know that we always want to start by dividing this regular polygon into triangles by drawing the center and drawing our radii from the center to each vertice. And so I'll go ahead and draw my radii right here, dividing the shape up into 6 triangles. Remember, the number of triangles will always be equal to the number of sides. So if we have 6 sides, well, we'll have 6 triangles. And then this brings us to the next point, going all the way around the middle. All of our central angles will form a circle, which will give us how many degrees? Yeah, that's right, 360 degrees. Now we'll always divide this by the number of sides, or the number of triangles, which will be 6. And so we know that each one of these central angles is going to have to be 360 divided by 6, which is 60 degrees. So I can write 60 degrees right there. I can write 60 degrees right there, so on and so forth. Now, once I've divided this up, and by the way, let's go ahead and say that this regular hexagon has sides of 5 centimeters. Okay, now once we've divided this up into triangles, we then want to go ahead and draw our apothem. Let me go ahead and draw that in this kind of nice yellow right here. And I'll drop it straight down. If you'll recall, our apothem goes from the center to the midpoint. It divides the sides into 2 congruent segments. So I'll use 2 tick marks here to show that they're different than the sides, but they are congruent to each other. And it also forms a right angle, which gives us our right triangle. And I'll draw that here very, very large. Okay. And my reason for doing this is I want it to be very clear what are our numbers and where do they go. So we have our right triangle. And remember, if this side is 5, our apothem cuts everything in half. So if the whole side is 5, well, half of that, 5 divided by 2, is going to equal 2.5. And so we know that the base of our right triangle is 2.5 centimeters. Now next, we also want to find out what is this angle at the top. Once again, what does our apothem do? It cuts things in half. And so we'll do 60 divided by 2, which is 30 degrees. And so we know that our top angle of our right triangle is 30 degrees. The very last thing, I want to label this third side. I want to label it X because if you'll recall, that is our apothem. And I know that's kind of sloppy, but we know that that is our apothem. So let's go ahead and work through this. We know that whenever we have a right triangle, we can always use sine, cosine, or tangent. And in cases where we're finding the apothem, we're always going to use our tangent function. And tangent is tangent theta is equal to the opposite over the adjacent. Now, if you'll recall, this theta is really the angle, and so we'll write tangent of 30 degrees is equal to, close that parentheses. Well, if this is our angle, my opposite side is this line that doesn't touch it. So 2.5 over, and our adjacent side is the side that does touch the angle, so that would be x. Now, I want you to think back to what you know about our trigonometric functions. And whenever you're solving for x, your variable, we always want to multiply by what's in the bottom of the fraction, no matter what. And in this case, we have x in the denominator, or the bottom. So I will multiply both sides times x. And let me go ahead and remove that. So I'll multiply this right side times x. Those cancel. And what we do to the right, well, we have to do to the left. And so we're going to get this. We're going to get x tangent of 30 degrees equals 2.5. Now we kind of ran out of room here, so what I want to do is I'm going to go ahead and take my eraser, And I want to erase this just so I have a little bit more space to work with and we can make this nicer and neater. So we'll go ahead and get rid of this all right here. And I'm going to get rid of this as well so I can really just kind of clear up that space. Okay. Perfect. Perfect. Okay. Now, going back to my pen. So now we have this, and in order to get x by itself, well, we're going to have to divide by the tangent of 30 degrees. And what we do to the left, we have to do to the right. So I'll divide by the tangent of 30 degrees. And these, of course, will cancel on the left. And so we'll have x equals 2.5 divided by the tangent of 30 degrees. Now let's go ahead and pull out our calculators. And remember, with your calculator, you always want to make sure that it is, in fact, in degrees, not radians. And so we're going to type in 2.5. Let's see, 2.5 divided by, and then we'll type in our tangent function of 30 degrees. And that will go ahead and give us 4.33. And so what are we really finding there? Well, let me go ahead and go back to a nice red. When we find this, we're finding the apothem. And that's going to be this side right here, or in our original shape, it's going to be that side right there. Now let's go ahead and do one more example. So let me go ahead and clear this off. And let's go back to this nice teal, and we'll say for example 2, I want you to find the apothem, just kind of shorthand this here. I want you to find the apothem of this regular octagon that I'm currently drawing. Now when we think of an octagon, you can think of the UFC, you can think of a stop sign, you can think of an octopus, but we know that an octagon will always have 8 sides, okay? And I'll draw these 2 tick marks to indicate that all 8 sides are congruent, making this a regular polygon. Let me go ahead and go back to my nice red, okay? And well, what is step 1? Oh, and by the way, let's label this as 8 centimeters right there. Well, what's step 1? We want to draw our center, and we want to divide our regular octagon up into, that's right, 8 triangles. So we'll draw from every vertice, we're going to draw a line to the center. And once again, the number of triangles will always be equal to the number of sides. So 8 sides, 8 triangles. And we know that all 8 of our central angles will always add up to 360 degrees. And so we'll do 360 divided by the number of sides, which in this case is 8. So 360 divided by 8 will give us 45 degrees. And so I can go ahead and kind of write that in right there. There's 45 degrees. Here we go. There's 45 degrees. So on and so forth all the way around. Now after I've divided up into triangles and I've found my central angle, next I want to find my apothem. Let me go to this yellow color right here. So I'll drop a line straight down. We know that the apothem will always divide everything in half. So it divides this base into 2 congruent segments. Oh, here, let me just use 1 congruent segment there because we've already used 2. And so if this whole line right here is 8, well, then we know this must be 4 for just this half of the base. And this actually allows us to draw our right triangle. So I'll draw it right there with our right angle. We know that the base is 4 centimeters, and we want to find that angle up top. Well, what does the apothem do? It cuts everything in half. And so we'll do 45 divided by 2, which will give us 22.5 degrees. So I'll go back in and write that right there, 22.5 degrees. And the last thing I want to do for my right triangle is I want to label my apothem X. Let's write that word one more time, finding the apothem. Now thinking back to our previous example, anytime you want to find the apothem, it's actually kind of nice. we're always going to start by using our tangent function. And tangent is tangent theta equals the opposite over the adjacent. So we go to our top angle, which is 22.5, and I will write tangent of 22.5 is equal to our opposite side. That's going to be this side that does not touch the angle. Let's go ahead and label it opposite. That's going to be 4 over our adjacent side, the side that does touch the angle. We've labeled that as an x. And now in order to solve for x, we want to get it by itself, but this always starts by multiplying by what's in the bottom of the fraction, or the denominator. So we see an x is in the bottom, so we'll multiply the right side by x, canceling those out. But what we do to the right, we want to do to the left, so our right times x. And now we'll have x tangent of 22.5 is equal to 4. In order to get this x value by itself, we will divide by the tangent of 22.5, and those will cancel. And remember, what we do to the left, we have to do to the right. And so we have the tangent of 22.5. And if you will type that into your calculator, 4 divided by the tangent of 22.5, let me go ahead and do that right now. So let's see, clear all. And we'll write 4 divided by, type in my tangent button, 22.5. Well, that's going to give us x equals 9.656, and so that will run up to 9.66, and in this case that would be 9.66 centimeters. Once again, what is that? That is our apothem, and that is this height right here. All right, well, thank you for joining me on level 3, and I'll see you guys next time on level 4.